This evening we are presenting on Riding Rock on the island of San Salvador in the Bahamas. This is a very pristine and remote island. Not everybody has heard of it. The island of Bahamas has a lot of islands, and we always hear about Nassau and Freeport and Grand Exuma. But San Salvador is often overlooked, and it has some beautiful diving. Also exciting is Bahamas is now open and available to travel. So this is something that you could, if you want to get away tomorrow, we can make it happen. So who we have with us tonight is Betsy, Tyler, and Michelle. They're from Riding Rock on San Salvador, and they are going to share with you their beautiful island this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good evening and welcome to everyone that's on this platform this evening. Thanks so much for joining us and for being a part of Riding Rock's presentation. My name is Michelle, and as Cheryl just said, I'm from Riding Rock. My assignment is to ensure that both your travel experience to the island is hassle-free and your stay at Riding Rock is accommodating and memorable. Riding Rock, as you've heard, is a small hotel property situated on the west side of the island of San Salvador in the Bahamas. And this is the island where Christopher Columbus made his first landfall to the New World in 1492. Many areas throughout the island is still unspoiled and natural as it was back then, believe it or not. Actually, it's part of our island charm, and it's why we are a hands-on facility that is totally dedicated to all of our guests. The hotel overlooks the Atlantic Ocean and comprises 24 rooms with poolside view to the east and the ocean view to the west. We have a dining room on property, a swimming pool, as I mentioned before, and a bar which gives access to our relaxing patio and a spectacular view of the sunset at the end of the day. Riding Rock has been welcoming divers from all over the world from as far back as the early 70s, some 50 years ago. Guests are truly amazed with the diving and our hospitality. We know that sometimes connecting all of the pieces of the puzzles to get to San Salvador is a little bit tricky, but that's where I come in, and I'm just so delighted to work with Cheryl or you directly in putting the pieces together perfectly so that we do all the work for you. From recommending the best flight connections to requesting flight adjustments on time if necessary for the larger groups, fulfilling special dietary needs if you have guests on special diet in the group, and any other on-island requests that you may have, we are happy to accommodate them as far as possible. Our goal is to make you feel comfortable, and especially now that you've been out of the diving for a while, we want to make it hassle-free and delightful for you. So we make it carefree so that you will feel, as we often say, like it's visiting your friends and family away from home. Now, since the pandemic, we've done all that we can, and we've made it our priority to ensure that the place is sanitized and safe for you as required. Yes, you may have to physically distance, and wear your mask and sanitize your hands as you come through the door, but we will be there to give you the service just like before every time you come in. So with that, if you are looking for a small secluded island off the beaten path, or if you like less crowded resort and less crowded dive boats, if you love island charm for relaxation, then perhaps you need to seriously consider escaping to Riding Rock for that much needed overdue dive trip. It's the island that I call home, and I'll be so happy to share it with you along with the rest of our staff. At this time, I will segue to Tyler and Betsy, who manage and operate the dive operations, who will tell you why diving at the Riding Rock is a place that you should consider and what you will experience once you're there. At the end, if you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Tyler?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. And my name is Tyler Schultz, and I've been the operations manager for Guanahani Divers, which is associated with the Riding Rock in San Salvador for the last 10 years. And this is Betsy alongside here. And together we kind of keep the operation, the diving part of it going. So tonight, what we're planning to do is give you kind of an overview of the operation, what your week might be like, some of the things you're going to see and experience that might make San Salvador, a place for you to bring your groups or come on your own. First thing I want to say real quickly is that I'm in a unique position because I also own a dive shop. So I'm always looking for places to go. And when we were in an economic downturn several years ago, I was having a hard time getting people to go to groups and go to new places, and the more expensive trips, it was getting people difficult to fill them up. So I happened to have been in Palau, and one of our dive guides there, I was talking to him and I said, I'm just having a hard time filling some trips, and I was kind of had explored the more beaten paths to the full extent. And the guy said to me, he said, you really need to go to San Salvador. And I said, well, I'm not sure about Central America. There was some political instability. And he said, no. It's one of the outer islands of the Bahamas, one of the family islands, they call it. So I had been to Nassau diving, to New Providence. And again, the crowds I wasn't interested in, and the diving was much different than we see in San Salvador. So I ended up putting a trip together, going down to San Salvador. I was skeptical at first, and once I got there, fell in love with the place, saw its uniqueness. It wasn't that difficult to get to, but it was, again, off the beaten path. No crowds at the dive sites, and I fell in love with it. Established a relationship with Michelle and the Williams family, and I've been running their dive operations ever since. So I hope that comes across to you, that we do have a differential compared to some of the other places. And again, if you're looking for uniqueness and the remoteness of an island, yet you're not that far from home, I think you'll find San Salvador might be a great destination. So Betsy's going to start the presentation here real quick. And I just want to explain very briefly about the Bahamas a little bit. Most people think the Bahamas is part of the Caribbean, but it's really not. We're part of the North Atlantic. So by showing, you'll see where the Bahamas is located there, east of Florida. We are almost at a direct line. If you look at Havana and Miami, right between the two, San Salvador is the island that sticks out furthest to the east. And, the Bahamas being an island nation, it's spread over several hundred miles, 500 miles or 700 small to medium to larger islands. We stick out furthest to the east, and you're going to see in a little bit how that makes our diving a little bit unique to some of the other places. Real quick, I just want to say about the Bahamas, some basic statistics. The Bahamas make up about 0.1% of the world population. Of the 700 islands, 13 of them are inhabited. You've got a total island nation population of 395,000, of which 250,000 on the island of New Providence, which is where Nassau is. That's the capital. Grand Bahama to the north holds about 50,000 Bahamians. And San Salvador, which Betsy is pointing out right there, has a total population of 930 people in the last census and a square mile area of 60. So we have 60 square miles and you have 930 permanent residents. So that's a great sales point for a lot of people. So as Michelle briefly mentioned, it is the official landing site of Columbus in 1492. That is their selling point. It's interesting because I think San Salvador, we suffer a little bit of an identity crisis, and Club Med, who is the other resort on the island besides ourselves, I think they actually figured that out, and they actually promote the island as Columbus Isle. They don't even call it San Salvador. So again, there's various places on the island that point out the cross on the left is actually a marker that the island or the country of Spain paid for to indicate that is the closest to where they believe Columbus actually set foot. So that is a real claim to fame for San Salvador. Now we even have an underwater monument that that commemorates the landing, and it's a great photo op. But that's what it looks like on one of our dive sites. So if you look also, the nice thing in the last several years since I've been there, there's been a real push for preservation and conservation. So you'll notice the areas in green are actually national parks or marine parks or sanctuaries. So there's been a whole new set of guidelines that have been enacted over the last 2 to 3 years. And we're really excited about that. So, and again, here's just a poster to create an awareness that you'll see around the island to make the locals, as much as the transient boaters and the divers, aware that they are in a national park. So if you take an overview of the island, one of the things you see here that makes it unique from the way the rest of the Bahamas were formed geologically is it is an actual seamount. We're on the top of a mountain. And the rest of the Bahamas is not that way. So surrounding the island of San Salvador, you will notice the deeply shaded blue color. That's an actual very steep drop off to about 13,000 feet surrounding us. So consequently, we have some absolutely fantastic wall diving. In fact, several of the well-traveled guests that I talked to, you know, if you've been to Little Cayman, it's fabulous wall diving. Based on what I see in San Salvador, it rivals that. Now, about 30% of the island is also made up of inland lakes. So you'll notice that. And then you can also see that runway in the upper left-hand corner. That's an 8,000-foot paved runway. Let me see if I can make this work. So because we've got an 8,000-foot paved runway, we now, you can pick up a 737 service out of Miami that goes directly to San Salvador. So when that flight was added a couple of years ago, it took away some of the travel logistics and made things a little easier, but you can get a direct flight from Miami to San Salvador. So you don't have to go through Nassau. So, and if you do land in Nassau, that's one of the tips we try to give people. You'll notice sometimes you go into immigration and nobody wants to see that. So where I'm actually taking the picture from, I'm in a separate little lane. You can get off the plane. If you veer to the left, there's a separate line for family island connections, and you don't have to stand in line with all the other people going through customs. And it's very quick. So if you do go through Nassau, what you're going to do is you're going to pick up a 60-seater prop plane, which has generally daily service from Nassau to San Salvador. And you'll notice that there's our runway. Now you wonder, how does an island with 930 people ever get a runway of that extent? So years ago, this was during the Cold War, this was a military base. There were 3 branches of the military that were actually stationed on San Salvador. And during the Cold War, it was a very strategic point because the submarines would come out of, and the ships would come out of the North Atlantic, the way North Atlantic. And this was their final right-hand turn before they went into Cuba. And because of the depth, the submarines were able to hide. And the ships were closely monitored. So consequently, consequently, the U.S. government was really not that interested in developing the island. And once the Cold War was over, the military left, and there wasn't much going on. So we have this beautiful runway, which has been maintained, and you can land all the big jets right there. So as you land, as you look to the right, you will see that's the Riding Rock Inn, and it's near Riding Rock Point. That's where the name of the resort comes from. And you'll see the bar and restaurant building, and then you have a one-story building with roughly 8 rooms, and then you've got a 2-story building a little further down, but that's the resort complex. So that's the plane actually coming in. That's the 60-seater. And there's the jet service that comes in, servicing Club Med once a week from Paris, a flight from Toronto, and a flight from Miami. So you get off the plane and welcome to San Salvador. And the first thing you'll notice is you'll see Wendy's. And everybody's like, oh, you got a Wendy's on the island. But that is our Wendy's snack bar, and you get yourself something cool to drink and some ice cream. Then you'll get picked up on a bus, and you will be brought to the hotel. And again, that is the view from the airport runway, looking at the restaurant, front desk area, and bar. You have a beautiful front porch on the bar. You know, the nice thing is you have a bite to eat, get a drink at the Driftwood bar, then sit on the porch, and every night it's a different personality with the sunset. That's looking out over the bar during the day. And everybody's always looking for the green flash. Some amazing cloud formations. And you get some great moonscapes too. So that's actually the view from your room looking to the south. So that's how close you are to the water. And that is the kitchen staff, and often it's a buffet. That was a dining room picture. And that's generally the daily schedule we work off of, or darn close to it. And we do have you'll notice at 8:30, we try to get out for the 2-tank morning dives, and then we have roughly around 3 o'clock, an afternoon dive between lunch and dinner. So this is actually the marina, which the Williams family also owns. It's part of the Riding Rock complex. And so there's lots of boats in there. Marlin fishing is big. You can do charter fishing if you want, if you're not going to dive for a day. But our dive boats are stationed right there at the marina. And you'll see now there's the 2 dive boats we have. And as you look outward, you can see the opening of the marina. I'm actually standing at the dive shop. So, you know, valet diving and butler diving has become a thing. It's kind of the new buzzwords in the industry, but we've actually been doing that ever since Riding Rock started. So when you show up, we'll get your gear for you. We try to make it easy. We'll get it on the boat for you. If you need help setting up, that's fine. But from then on, all the stuff stays on the boat. So you're not lugging your equipment back and forth to rinse tanks. We rinse the equipment for you every night. Hang your suit up, and then when you come in the morning, you grab your suit, jump on the boat, and you're ready to go. That's our dive shop. It's not a retail shop. We don't have any sales of anything there, but we do have the ability to repair equipment. That's the workbench all set up, and I've been a technician for 30 years and can pretty much fix a lot of things. So we haven't ever had anybody miss a dive because of equipment problems. We have all new rental equipment, BCs. Cressy regulators. Everything's up to snuff. And we now have the ability to get nitrox, but we have to get that from Club Med. So we purchase nitrox from Club Med. We analyze it for you, or you can do it on your own. And so we are able to offer that now. Now, the other interesting thing is that I always kind of make the joke that, you know, the retail stores are so limited. You know, if you need a roll of duct tape, you can't find it on the island. But we do have a full recompression chamber staffed 24 hours by a French doctor at Club Med. So the closest recompression chamber, if there is an issue, is just on the other side of the runway. And again, this is the dive area, and where you can hang your equipment, and it's a place to hang out. So Betsy's cutting up the oranges for the day. We're filling tanks. We have people get off the boat, we fill your tanks, you get back on, and you're ready to go. So that's our dive boat Guanahani 3 and versus Guanahani 1. That's the opening to the marina. We're heading out for the day. It has an upper deck as well as a lower deck, and it can accommodate about 18 to 20 people max. And that's the space on the boat. And I guess there's probably 12 or 13 people with some people up top. So it's not that crowded. That's actually a 32-foot boat. And there's our other 38-foot boat, what we call G1 Guanahani 1. And that is a single deck, but it is longer and it has a little wider beam to it. So let me talk real quickly about the type of diving that we have. Because we're on this seamount, eventually every dive that you do in San Salvador is going to get to a wall. So we have a typical wall profile right here. Our sandy flat usually comes out about 45 feet. Then we have kind of a narrow area of reef in some areas with this particular type of profile. And then you have the sheer wall going down. Now, some walls continue down hundreds to thousands of feet. Other one, there's another shelf that'll stick out at roughly the 90 to 100-foot range. So you can swim any profile you want. We have deeper diving there. We have good shallow diving there. But you'll notice that the reef is concentrated on this type of profile very narrowly along the edge of the forereef where it goes down. So you'll have a lot of creatures concentrated into a small area. It's hard for them to hide if they don't want to go into the sand or they don't want to obtain more depth. And then this is another type. We have the sand, again, roughly 45 feet. We have more of a sloping area, so it tends to spread the reef out over a wider surface area. And then again, you eventually hit the deep wall. And the third type we have is, you know, a 30 to 50-foot dive on a flat with much more, the coral heads are much more spread out over a wider area. Okay.
Decided to stick. All right, so.
Are you guys seeing the slope? That's it? You seeing the dive profile?
We were. It's now kind of jumping to different underwater pictures. Right now we've got the stingray.
Perfect. You have seen the presentation and we're not.
Okay.
Apologize. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now we can back up real quick. There you go. Sorry about that. That was a quite delay.
Can you see it? Can you see it now? What the images are?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Now all right. Sorry about that, you guys.
Are you seeing a map now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Apologize.
No problem.
So one of the cool things about San Salvador is the way our dive sites are concentrated on one side of the island. So you happen to be far enough south that you are in an area of latitude where you do not have prevailing westerlies. You have prevailing easterlies. So consequently, this guy who originated with the, who decided to put the riding rock in, he knew the right spot. So one of the things we pride ourselves on is water conditions are usually quite good because the dive sites are fairly close to shore. And the other thing is that they're, you know, when I tell people you are within, you know, 2 to 3 minutes out of the dive area to some of our best dive sites. And that is not an exaggeration. We can keep you busy within 15 minutes going north or south all week with new dive sites. So you'll notice that from tip to tail on the island, it's about 16 miles in terms of the underwater part that we can dive. The island itself is about 12 miles north to south. But because we only have one other dive operation on the island, and they only visit about 15 of the sites, Betsy and I have developed now about 40 sites that really maybe get visited just a handful of times per year. So in terms of wear and tear on the dive site, you're not going to see that here. And we can keep you busy now going to different sites for up to 3 years. So the sites, if it's rough in one area, if it's rough in the north, we can go to the south. If it's rough in the south, we can go to the north. If it's rough further out, we stay closer in. If it's calm further out, we can go further out. But the one thing I want to emphasize that makes San Salvador unique versus some of the other locations you may have been to, where often the dive sites tend to take the same look. I mean, I've been to many different locations and I can generalize how a certain area looks with a specific type of dive site in mind. But the specifics of the site, I can't remember. So I would challenge you at the end of the week to pay attention to the difference in each individual site that you're going to see. The flora and the fauna of the area are going to resemble what you see anywhere in the North Atlantic or the Caribbean. But what makes San Salvador unique is the topography and the reef structure and the relief that you will not see in other areas. And that's what tends to bring people back over and over. It's the diversity in our dive sites. Oh.
I know. So did it switch to another slide?
Yes, it's
Still
now,
show-
yeah, like a Google map and a bunch of dive site flags.
Okay, there you go. Okay,
Oh, all
so
right,
there you
so
can, there's actually a satellite view. There's the runway, and you can see, now that's an 8,000 foot runway, right? And so if you look how many dive sites from Carter's Landing to the north, all the way down to Vicky's Reef in the south, how many dive sites we cover. And all of those dive sites, the one thing I will promise you, you are going to see different dive sites, different looking sites on each particular dive. And just in that particular area, that's what has amazed me and keeps me really interested, is the ability to go out and find these different looking sites. So you'll see we're tied up to one of our sites, and you'll notice that the wind is starting to pick up on the water way in the background there, but it's not stirring up the water near shore. And this is just coming back. You'll notice how beautiful the water is. We have a lot of sandy beach, but we've also got, you know, rocky shoreline as well. But again, quite calm. And you'll notice in that picture, the trees are bent out into the ocean. Now, this is kind of a unique picture because I was trying to come up with a picture that showed how great our visibility is. We are known for good visibility. The picture on the left is a picture that I took last year, and that is actually 60 feet. We're in 60 feet of water. Now, what makes that unique is how solid the outline of that boat is. And I'm looking over the side of the boat, and I saw that very specific boat shape, 60 feet in the sand. And I'm at the same depth looking up on the right. So again, great visibility. It happens to be Betsy in the front. with the group to the side of her, and we're just swimming along on one of the sites.
It just keeps going in and out. So then.
So we've lost. I'm not sure where we're at, but one
I
thing.
think it's the grouper.
No, it's the diver going in the middle of the reef. It looks like he's holding a stick.
Okay.
He's got yellow fins. Now you've got the grouper with two divers touching the chin.
Okay, so the first one was you dropping down on the reef.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go. Sorry. I don't know why it's stopping and going.
So
Apologize.
that's me, and what I'm actually doing, I'm just falling through some of our reef structure. You know, you're falling through millions and millions of years of evolution, reef evolution, and as we're dropping down through, this kind of time capsule. Okay, yeah, there we go. We're actually heading off to kind of a unique trail on a particular dive. Okay, so next. So friendly groupers, they're probably our best ambassadors. Everybody loves to pet the groupers. The groupers love to be petted. There's a southern stingray with a barjack. That's me. You can see just hanging out, talking to the stingray.
And the video is not playing. Is the video playing for you guys? I apologize. It's not playing on our end.
It is.
Oh, good. So someone just let me know when it's over and I will click forward.
Let me talk just for a minute about lionfish. Lionfish, I think we all know as divers, have created a bit of a problem with our reef ecology. While the rest of the world was arguing about the benefits and the downside of killing lionfish, we were kind of going after them aggressively. And we have been taking out lionfish for the last 10 years. And the nice thing about the lionfish population in San Salvador is it's pretty low. We have gone through a very massive extermination effort, and we, based on the reef structure, it's very easy for us to have an impact because of this kind of concentrated area the reef fish are. The lionfish were there, and we've had a dramatic effect by overfishing these things. So Paul Heumann was out with a reef group. This was probably 4 years ago. And he had told both Betsy and myself that our juvenile and intermediate populations were probably as good as anywhere he'd seen. And one of the factors he attributed that to was the reduction in the lionfish population. So you're not going to see many lionfish.
I clicked it once. So I'm not sure why this is hanging up, but I think you guys are on to the next slide.
We are, yes.
And can you prompt me to what it is? It's a stonefish.
Yes.
So there's the scorpion fish, and then now I don't know what the next one is.
All right.
Green conch shell.
Here we go.
Okay, this is just some kind of, you dive there enough, you start to see unusual things. We just flipped over a conch and it was eating a sand dollar. I did not know conch ate sand dollars.
They're on to the next one, which is not, I don't know why it's lagging so badly.
One of the things I want to mention because we can't see what you're seeing, is that, we're a small resort, and we don't try to compete with the big guys. And what that means to me is that we're kind of comfortable in our own skin. I'm a small town guy by nature. Michelle's grown up on the island, and we're from a town and an island where we try to remember your name. So everybody's got their own identity down there. You're not a number. we really rely heavily on repeat business. And the reason we get the repeat business is because, and some people keep it a well-kept secret, is because of the personal touch that you get. So if you come to me and you bring a group, or you have, your friends with you or from a dive shop, what I like to find out from you is specifically what type of diving you would like to do. Some people want to just go on tours. Other people want to focus on macro. Other people want to do deeper diving. Other people want to do more shallow diving. So what you can do with your group at the Riding Rock is you can really cater to what your divers are looking for. This is not a corporate structured resort. The dive masters that are there are not there long term, so you're not going to get people that are burned out. We are just as excited to be there as you are and show you the cool stuff. Are you looking at a basket star?
You're testing me on my underwater identification now. I think so.
Okay. Now you should see a little spotted cleaner shrimp.
Yes.
So we've got good macro, big. Bahamas are known for big stuff. But here's a few pictures of little stuff. There's a Peterson anemone shrimp, and then you've got in the left. You'll look. There's the red snapper shrimp or snapping shrimp hanging out in that corkscrew anemone. There's some little squat shrimp, or they call them sexy shrimp, within the anemone. Then you see the little tiny one just to the south there of the other one. Mantis shrimp in the sand. We've got a great sand ecosystem. There's a decorator crab in the anemone. Then you've got a little hairy crab on one of the corals. There's a clinging channel crab. They're actually quite large. They're usually hanging out on the walls. There's a Caribbean reef octopus during the day.
Oh, there we go. Amazed that the video still works.
And that's pretty cool. He's out during the day. There's our, we have a family of flying grenards. Never want to guarantee you're going to see them, but we see them almost every week. They hang out together. And then there's the turtles. Everybody loves the turtles. They love to pose for pictures. Very diver friendly. Peacock flounders. This is kind of cool, when you see the unusual behavior. That poor barjack, usually they're hanging out with the rays, and that peacock flounder just does not want to give up his position, and the barjack finally loses his interest and swims off. Great barracuda. There's your queen angel. There's your white spotted filefish. There's another version of it, the more common version. Then you've got your splendor filefish, really, really small stuff. Four-eyed butterflies. There's your banded butterflies, your gray angels, a couple of sharp-nosed puffers, a couple of Caribbean spiny lobsters saying hello. There's your French angel. There's your indigo hamlet. We actually have a site called Hamlet's Hole where you can actually go down and do your checklist and try to find the 4 species of hamlet. There's your spot fin burrfish. There's your spotted trunkfish. And I assume you more experienced seasoned divers know what that is. That's the little juvenile trunkfish, the smooth trunkfish. Very hard to spot. Then your flamingo tongue, we call it laying some eggs. And then about 1 out of every 1,000 flamingo tongues look like that, and that's the fingerprint siphonia. Got to look close for those. Okay, so we have this large sandy area. You will find that we have the most interesting sand anywhere you go. we've got a lot of structure in it and a lot of stuff living in there. So some of our dives, people will just go out and they spend time just looking through the sand. So you will notice that is actually, those little volcanoes are the homes to southern lugworms. As they dig themselves down, they create that little volcano. We got lots and lots of garden eels, right? Spotted moray, the green moray. There's your peppermint goby. You got your juvenile drum. There they are, nervous little fish swimming around. Juvenile trumpet fish. And we have an interesting picture of a whelk actually laying an egg case on a soft coral. Pretty cool. And then long snout seahorses hanging out together. And then there's Betsy taking a selfie there. And that's your rough head triple fin. That's actually a pretty hard fish to find. I didn't know what that was. And then our yellow-headed jawfish, which we see out in the flats a lot. So this is kind of a cool picture. We have a lot of sponges there. I had a sponge researcher call me and say he had heard that, and he went out and looked around, and he called me back and he said, "Man, you are right. There are a lot of nice sponges in San Salvador." In fact, one of our sites is called Sponge-worthy. It's spawning. There's another cool picture, a picture of a sponge spawning, and in those kind of mucus-laden, filamentous tentacles-looking things are actually the fertilized eggs of the sponge. And then Bahamas is kind of known for its big animals. They often promote that. And here's your here's your nurse shark that we probably disturbed from an afternoon nap. And these are our friends, the Caribbean reefs. We have transients and we have a local population. And they're not afraid of the divers. Newer divers tend to be a little shaken sometimes by their friendliness, but they just come up and hang out. And that one's actually smiling for the camera. You'll see them almost on every dive. And actually we do a little shark riding and get pretty comfortable, but that picture was actually, we looked at it afterwards and it looked like I was riding the shark. They like their pictures taken. Seem to anyway. Now, one of the things San Salvador is noted for are its population of hammerhead sharks. So if you come at the right time of year, you have, which is generally the water is cooler in the spring, you have a better chance of seeing the hammerheads. They do like the cooler waters. Now, what makes San Salvador unique is we actually have two species. We have the great hammerhead, which you'll notice by the fin has got kind of a sweeping back, thinner fin. And then, oh yeah, we have, again, the great hammerhead. Then we also have the scalloped hammerhead. And we got a call from the BBC Nature programming a year and a half ago that they were the San Salvador was the only place that when the Florida State University did some shark population census work, found that it was the only island they could find the scalloped hammerhead. So BBC came out for 2 weeks, did a show on the hunt for the scalloped hammerhead and those previous two slides. And there's the underwater photographer there. They're on the back of G3 doing the show, and it should be airing hopefully anytime. And then there is a very unique picture of two scalloped hammerheads They tend to dive or tend to swim a little more deeply, eat different things than the great hammerhead, and have a much lower population. They're actually one of the 4 most endangered sharks in the world. And the show that they're going to be featured in is called The Red List, which refers to endangerment of a species. And there's the actual scalloped hammerhead swimming that we got pretty close to. They're very wary. You kind of have to be looking out for them. Then last year we had Scottish Diver did a story on a couple of our biggest stars. And that is some dolphins that started hanging out with us. And they are just always in such a good mood. Happy to see us. And, you know, as divers, we have to be careful how we interact with nature, but these dolphins just love the interaction. That's why they're there. In fact, if you don't pet them, they will rub up against you. And just over the time, we've got some neat pictures. There's one chasing the stingray. They just love to play. There's one doing a flip with a little toy. And this is kind of a cool story. Betsy held her pole spear out. The one came immediately, put it over her snout, and took off. And Betsy said, "I'll be darned if that dolphin's going to get away with my pole spear." So she followed it and found it off in the sand, and you'll see that she is laying on top of it, showing off to the male, "Look what I've got." And Betsy just slowly swam up to the dolphin and pulled the pole spear back out. Excuse me. Take a look at that terrain. Isn't that gorgeous? The different layers of sand, sandy chutes, the coral heads. This is, before she plays this video, this is a very interesting piece of nature video. You can take a lot of pictures before you see this, but dolphins, as we know, are pretty smart animals. This dolphin went up, and at the top of the water, it had gone down, it caught a fish, it went up, took a breath, and it's actually going to come down and feed the circling shark, the fish. And Betsy happened to get this on video.
It was actually the only video I got of the dolphin that day, because the dolphin was there briefly, fished, and took off after this.
Watch it drop the fish. The shark grabs it. That's pretty cool. So here's our Columbus monument for your photo op, and a lot of animals find it too. It's interesting. There's a stingray with a cleaner shrimp on it. There's a coney, the red-nosed fish, and if you look, there's a little tiny juvenile drum right there, very small, no bigger than a thumbnail or fingernail. There's a couple of sharks circling around it. There's a grouper hanging out there waiting to be petted. And then that's it for the underwater stuff. So what do we have to do on an island with 900 people on it and some of the best scuba diving in the North Atlantic? You have roughly 12 to 15 settlements where the population lives. You have one road that encircles the entire island, which is almost like a NASCAR track. And you're making a constant right-hand turn going around, and that's kind of what the road around the island looks like. Island tours are available upon request. San Salvador is famous for the lighthouse that it has, which is still hand-tended and turned on every night.
You can actually walk up to the top as well.
Yep. Watling's Castle, he's an old pirate that settled there, and there's quite a story behind him. There are some caves you can go down into with proper preparation. But we're really known for our beaches. When you come to San Salvador, you just kind of want to hang out. You'll find some of the nicest sand in the world. The water's just gorgeous. And that's actually right out in front of the marina, the sandy beach. If you don't walk the beach with your shoes off, you're missing something. And the other thing we encourage is that, group interaction. And those of you that are group leaders, it's important to actually have some ideas for things to do for people. So we always encourage playing dominoes. This is actually my group that went down last year, and cards, dominoes, karaoke in the bar. We've got a couple of bikes. You can do a bike ride. Betsy is really, really good at puzzles. So bring a puzzle with you. And the interaction, again, is great. People eventually, they get away from their electronics. We actually did a murder mystery theme night, Las Vegas theme night. Everybody dressed up, had a role to play. And it was a fun time. People dressed up for the 4th of July. And you recognize that group, Cheryl?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, there's another group. That's Tony, our captain in the yellow t-shirt. That guy knows that island. It knows those waters. A group from Oklahoma City. There's a group from Michigan. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate you being interested in Riding Rock and hope to see you there. Following is a short video that we're going to play, and I guess questions can follow. But we appreciate your time and your attention.
Riding Rock Resort and Marina has been a top diving destination for decades. Finally, after many months, we'd like to welcome you back to our tropical island paradise. Beginning October 15th, we will once again be open and invite you to experience our warm, clear water and breathtaking reef ecosystem. While you are away, we've been preparing our resort to ensure your safety with the highest possible cleanliness standards and new protocols for keeping our environment pristine. To prepare for your visit, be sure to visit www.bahamas.com/tourism-reopening for the latest information regarding COVID and the Bahamas. In order to protect our guests the best we can, we will adhere with government guidelines for masking and social distancing. Once here, you'll enjoy the same world-class diving experience that Riding Rock Resort and Marina is famous for. Most of our dive sites are just a short boat ride from the dock. Every one of our dives is a different experience, ranging from steep drop-offs to pinnacles and deep crevices. You'll encounter marine life of every description. With sharks on constant patrol, you'll be approached by friendly groupers and other aquatic residents. Reef fish school in abundance, and our walls are adorned with coral and sponges, sea fans, and countless invertebrates of every shape and color. So while getting here is a little less convenient, your experience will be oh so worth it. To learn more about our resort and book a stay with us, visit ridingrock.com. We can't wait to see you again.
So do I unshare the screen now? Is that what we do?
Yeah, we can. If you've got any kind of video or images you want to keep going in the background while we do Q&A, you're welcome to cycle through them. Otherwise, yeah, it's if you're done screen sharing, it's up to you. We're going to open the floor to questions and answers. We have a couple of questions in the question box already. For any of you that are new this evening, I do see a couple of new names. Thank you for joining us. We don't put the video on because it kind of bogs down the connection with everybody being on different islands and things like that. But if you want to raise your hands, or if you're shy or you don't have a working mic, you can type your question in the Q&A box or in the chat box. If we can, we will put you on with Betsy and Tyler and Michelle. And if you can't, then we'll ask your question for you. So we do have a couple of questions already. Let me see. David K., you are unmuted and on.
Yeah, hi there. Since you're near such deep water, do you do black water dives?
Hi, David. Thanks for the question. That is currently in discussion. I have thrown that out because, we can go, we can literally go, less than a quarter mile offshore and be in thousands of feet of water. I just haven't had folks that are really that interested in doing it yet. I've certainly thought about it. Logistically, we're set to do it. I just haven't had the demand, but I am absolutely fascinated by the idea of giving it a try.
And what are the water temps there at different times of year, like winter, summer?
So what we'll do in the wintertime, we get down as low as 75, 76. And in the summertime, we'll get as high as 85, 86, with the water changing either way about a degree or two a month.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And Tyler, I'll just tell you, a lot of these guys have been with us. We've been doing these presentations now since April. And a lot of the people here absolutely love blackwater diving. I think we were introduced once or twice back in April to it online. And a lot of people didn't know what it was, but once they found out what it was, they were hooked. So you're in a lot of good company here where you say there's no demand. I think you got probably safe to say the majority of these people here would be totally into it.
It's interesting because, it's a bit of a fear factor because right outside our marina, we have silky sharks, we have a lot of lemon sharks, we have oceanic whitetips, we have tiger sharks, our Caribbean reef, and bull sharks. And when the divers see the tuna come in and they've been cut in half right out in front of the marina, because of the sharks, it's been interesting. But yeah. So, but I'm absolutely willing to try that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep.
Randy Lou, you're on.
Yeah, with the nitrox that you get from Club Med, how much do you charge for that?
We are charging $15 a tank.
Oh,
So,
okay.
consequently, when we looked at nitrox, it was a little bit of a game of chicken. We really couldn't justify, getting a membrane system out there based on the volume that we do. So they stepped up and they spent a lot of money and they got that system. So we do purchase it from them and are really happy to do it. I recommend to people that you don't have to use nitrox every dive. If you substitute nitrox in for the second dive, the afternoon dive, it'll make a huge difference on your, residual nitrogen, or you do two, but you don't have to come and dive every dive nitrox. Some of the dives are actually quite shallow, but as you know, it's those mid-range dives that get you in trouble. And you do tend to spend a lot of time at between, 50 and 80 feet there. So, yeah.
Okay. And secondly, is there a camera cable or camera only rinse tanks on the boats? And
Yes,
is there a camera room available?
What?
Camera room, what do you mean for film?
Yeah, on land, for recharging batteries, or do we do that in
your
the
room.
lodging room?
You can do that in your room. You can
Okay.
batteries in your room. I mean, we do have plugs at the dive shop, so you're welcome to plug your chargers in down there if you'd like. But most people take their cameras back every night because they want to download their photos and see what they've got and play
Yeah.
around with it.
Now, are there camera specific rinse tanks on the boats?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
a mass bucket and a camera bucket.
Okay, great.
Did that answer all your questions, Randy?
Yes, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Marion Rudisil, you're on.
Okay, I have a whole list of questions. Michelle, I have a question for you. Are you guys, I saw online that you were participating in the $250 flight credit, and I just wanted to see if that was something that we could take advantage of.
Yes, you can. Whenever you're ready to book, just call me and I will take care of all of that for you.
Okay, okay. And so Tyler and Betsy, are you guys a patty operation?
Since we don't do training down there, we're not aligned with any agency. Personally, I'm PSAI, SSI, TDI, and SDI as an instructor, but the store itself does not issue certifications.
Okay. And is there any current?
You mean regarding training, or are you talking about?
Really, I mean, just your operation safety practices, you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so one of the things the Williams family wanted me to do when I got involved is to make sure that we bring it up to U.S. standards. And I have been a licensed paramedic for almost 25 years. So I think you will find when you come to our resort, everything from suture kit to AED on both boats, to full paramedic jump kits, to advanced airway, intubation, oxygen rescue kits. I mean, we have all of that because I understand the complexities of a diving accident. Now, with the idea that the chamber is close by, we can handle a diving accident very quickly because you can be, across the runway in 15 minutes. Medically, the medical emergencies the resources are fairly limited at their local clinic. So I just tell people, in the orientation that if it comes to you going up one extra step, don't do it. Be conservative, because when you do have a problem on the island, it is more complicated than at home. But in terms of medical emergencies, we can handle a lot of that. I think you'll find that our boats and dive shop are prepared medically for an emergency as good as anything.
Okay. And is there any current in the water much? Or enough to?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you never know what you're going to get. I can think, that water's just as tabletop flat and we go out and the current's just ripping. Depending on prevailing winds from the previous days, to the phase of the moon, to, the tidal fetch on that given day, synergistically they can combine, and yeah, you can get some pretty crazy rides. But if you're thinking like Cozumel consistent, you're not going to get that. It tends to be more we jump in the water and go, woohoo, here we go. So we just kind of have a plan for a drift dive.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's hard to plan for that. Most of our dives are not live boat diving. We are moored at the site. We'll do a general tour. Some of our tours are very specific, which you'll have to follow the guide if you're going to see what you want to see. But others are more, go down along the wall, come back over, and come back to the boat.
Mm-hmm. And Michelle, one of the reviews that I read on TripAdvisor, I think it said that you really need to rent a car. And I wasn't sure if that was really necessary or not.
Oh, no, not if you're just there to dive. Now, if on a Friday afternoon, the day before you depart, you want to do a private tour, you can rent a car, but absolutely it is not necessary to rent a car. From the hotel to the dive shop is a short walk. If there is a problem with anyone walking there, then Tyler or Betsy will transport you by vehicle or the golf cart. And so there's no need to rent a car. And we pick you up from the airport and take you back to the airport. Okay,
yeah, maybe that was just for people that weren't diving or wanted to see other parts of the island.
Perhaps, most likely.
Mm-hmm. Let me see, there was, what is the reef health like? That was another review of somebody, a repeat person, I guess, has been down to you guys like 10 times. And he was saying that the last time that he saw some coral bleaching.
Very little. And one of the reasons we don't have as much as some of the other locations is because we get so much upwelling of cooler water.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the replacement of that warmer water by the cooler water, we have had limited bleaching. There is some, but very minimal. And some a little more on dive sites, on some sites than others. But it is minimal compared to what I'm seeing in other places that I'm traveling.
Okay. All right. And then Michelle, one more for you. So where do masks need to be worn?
Well, masks are required in all public areas. So in the dining room, in the lobby, in the bar. Of course, when you're dining, you take your mask off en route to the dive shop. But generally the public areas, in your rooms, you're free to take it off and be comfortable.
Yeah. Do we have to wear them on the boat?
We are recommending that, yes.
Okay. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Marion.
for the questions.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marion. Steve and Tricia Hoy, you're on. Steve and Tricia, are you there? Steve? Okay, I'll wait for just a second, see if Steve comes on. In the meantime, Bill Weber, he doesn't have a mic. He's asking, do you have any wrecks?
Any what? Shipwrecks?
Wrecks, yeah, wreck diving.
Not where I would, yeah, we do have a couple of shipwrecks, but I would not consider this a wreck destination at all. There's one that, there's been a couple, but they've been dynamited as hazards to navigation. And it's more of a snorkeling site, but no.
Okay, I'm available now, Steve and Tricia Hoy.
Here we go, we can hear you.
I did the same thing I did last week on the different mic selection. We're in Los Angeles. When we go to the Caribbean, we usually take the red eye into Atlanta or Miami. Is it possible? You say it only goes from Miami on the 737 1 day a week. What day is that?
Saturday.
So it's a Saturday. Is that a morning shot?
It leaves like 12 o'clock midday. Right now, that flight is not operating because of the pandemic. So you'll have to check with me to see what's happening when you're ready to book. But it usually leaves around midday, 12 o'clock. So we suggest that people that are connecting, try to make your flight into Miami by 10 o'clock the latest, 9 to 9:30 preferably.
Yeah, that's easy. That's good. Is it possible to get anywhere else south? I suppose you go to Nassau. We'd like to go to San Juan or to St. Martin or to Antigua. Is that possible out of Nassau or is it possible out of San Salvador?
No, I think your best bet will be flying back into Miami and then going to the other islands. However, there is maybe one or two airlines that does fly to, I was thinking San Juan, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But your best bet will probably be to go back into Miami and then fly back to Miami and then on to those other islands.
One last question for you, Michelle. Tell me about the food.
You're not going to starve here at Riding Rock, and you're going to have more than enough delicious food to eat, local and American cuisines. Any specific dietary needs did you have, or just
like Caribbean food, Cuban food?
Not Cuban food, more Caribbean in terms of little Jamaican like curry and Bahamian food. Typical stuff. We have a breakfast buffet that's basically American. Lunch and dinner, a combination of Bahamian, Caribbean, and American.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to know, do you do any night dives?
Yes, we can do night dives. We have a minimum number that we require, which is 6, because we have a labor situation. We have one captain, and it ends up being about a 14-hour day for him. So we do require a minimum of 6.
Okay. That's it. isn't
Thank
it?
you.
Thank
That's
you.
it. All right. Steve, you can always give us a call when you're ready to book with all the different airlines we can check for you. I mean, San Salvador, nothing really comes to mind as far as ease and direct if you want an island hop, but definitely Miami is a major hub for the Caribbean, so that would be one way. And then you might be able to do something like a Cayman flight from Nassau. I think possibly Cuba certain times of year, and Puerto Rico. So it really is going to depend on when you're traveling, what you want to do, etc. And then of course right now there's so much going on with the airlines. We'd have to just kind of check in real time.
Yeah. Well, that trip would likely be next year at this time, because we go to St. Martin every November. But the thing is, we're not going this year because of the pandemic, but next year definitely would be a possibility. Spend a week with you guys and then find a way to get to St. Martin and then back through San Juan and Panama City. Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Carrie Joyner, you're on.
Hey, I have a few short questions from Michelle and Betsy and Tyler. Michelle, we didn't see any pictures of the hotel. Mostly they were dive related. So I guess I could look it up online to see pictures of the accommodations. But the 3 questions I have for you, Michelle, is do all the rooms have air conditioning, cable TV, and Wi-Fi?
Yes, all of the rooms have air conditioning. Cable TV, we have limited channels, of course, being on a remote island.
What do you call limited?
You probably have about 6 to 10 good channels. Your basic CNN, your network channels, your ESPN. So those are the main ones. And then the local station out of Nassau.
Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi, it's in the room, but not great in the rooms. Most people use the one in the public areas, like on the patio, in the bar, in the dining room, those areas, it's best. But we are looking at expanding the Wi-Fi for the room. So hopefully by the time as you get here, we'll have good service to the room.
Okay, thank you. And Betsy and Tyler, just talk briefly about what you do in terms of COVID. I don't know if the right word is remedies or protocols. I guess protocol is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like on the boat, for example, do you have you mentioned earlier about the different rinse tanks do you have. So so on the boat, you have separate rinse tanks for mask, or you don't recommend putting your mask in a rinse tank? And then back on land, when you rinse the gear, do you have a community rinse tank, or do you hose it down, or what?
We have a rinse tank if you want to dip your wetsuit in it or whatnot. And then we also have a couple hoses as well as showers when you're back on land. And then we do have a hand sanitizer on the boat.
We've eliminated all community type rinse tanks. So with the freshwater showers that we have there and the hose availability, you can just rinse your stuff at the end of the week that way. But at the end of the day, as your equipment stays on the boat, we hose that all down.
Okay. I mean, look, we're all feeling our way through this new COVID world, but I would imagine that it's fairly safe to community rinse your BCs, no?
Yeah, oh, I think so, yeah.
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 So, I mean, I like to dunk my gear as much as possible. I mean, I know I can't, probably doing regulators is not going to be advisable, but everything else I like to dunk and give it a thorough rinse.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you'll have dunk tanks?
We have a dunk tank, and then we do thoroughly rinse it every night with
Yeah.
a hose on the boat.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. We can talk a little bit. It looks like right now we don't have any more questions. If anyone has, I know it's a little bit later than what we usually go. We never cut you off. We'll be here all night if we need to be. So please feel free if you've got any questions to continue on asking. But I know some people need to drop off because it's getting later. So if you have any other questions, now's the time to raise your hand. Stephen and Trisha, I'm going to unmute you again. Is it working this time?
Yeah.
Awesome. You got it.
All right.
Just a quick one about bugs.
Mosquitoes, time of year. No, nothing.
We do have them. They're seasonal depending on how much rain we get. So the more rain that we have, the more the mosquitoes will be out. We also have the no-see-ums, but they are mainly out at dawn and dusk. So we try to tell you to not have your room open during those times. We tell you to bring insect repellents, and we also have a spray in the room available if you need it for the bugs. Unfortunately, they are there, but they're not on the run 24 hours a day. Like I said, it's mainly during the morning and just at sunset in the evenings.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
You would be wise to put some bug spray in your suitcase.
Yes, of course.
Always do, but some resorts spray the resorts. I don't particularly like that personally.
Yeah, no, we don't fog like that.
We don't fog, but occasionally the environmental health department on island, you would see their truck passing along the road, but we ourselves don't fog on property.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Luis Garcia, you're on.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful. I had a question about the hammerhead season. You mentioned that it's in the spring when the water's a little bit cooler. So what months are those?
So thank you for the question, Luis. The thing about the hammerheads, they can be so unpredictable, and that's kind of the beauty of them. For example, last summer, warmest time of the year, August, one was in 30 feet of water and swam by the whole group. I have other people that come out and will look for a week and they don't see them, when it's the coolest. So generally, as a rule though, loosely held rule, from December through April.
Okay.
That would, if you were gonna shoot at a calendar and pick a week, it would be somewhere during that period.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And Bill Weber is asking how many divers per guide?
Well, we try to we have a general rule. If it's more than 12, we try to have 2, because all our dives are guided, and I've been an instructor for 35 years, and Betsy has been an assistant instructor for me for many years. So we realize that if there's an issue with one person and somebody has to off, they will take that person back to the boat or help them. So we generally have a person in the front and then a person in the back. We don't encourage everybody to swim, right on top of each other. It's a big ocean, right? So spread out a little bit, but we always make sure that we have somebody in the front and somebody in the back. If we have a group of 8 or 6, generally we have one person with that. But we also talk to the group leader. and find out ahead of time. And again, this is kind of the personal touch we tend to offer. If there is a need for that second person with a smaller group, we'll try to have somebody there.
Okay, thank you. And by the way, Bill Weber is Bill and Susie. I don't know if you saw in the little kind of private chat to panelists, but they sent their love to you, to you both.
We know them.
Okay.
And leave it to Bill to ask the tough questions.
Well, I think that's all our questions for this evening. We're going to briefly touch, just because of the situation that the world is in, on coronavirus, because that tends to be a popular question. It hasn't been asked this evening, other than Carrie touched on it a bit as far as your protocols. Michelle, did you want to share? Because I know you're very, very busy this week. It's a special week for you guys. Did you want to share a little bit about coronavirus and the opportunity to start traveling to you guys as soon as this week?
Well, it's been announced that as of October 15th, which is this Thursday, we are allowed to start receiving guests at hotels. For now, it's what we call VIP, for vacation in place. We were very blessed in St. Sal not to have a case during this entire time. And what will happen if you come to Riding Rock right now is you will only be allowed to move about freely within the property of where you're staying. So yes, you'll be able to dive, you'll be able to go to the beaches, you come to the dining room and that sort of thing, but you won't be able to go into the community. But our staff will be more than happy, like if you forgot your repellent at home, your bug spray, and you need to have one picked up from the local store, we will get it for you and bring it to you. Again, all of the protocols, safety protocols will be in place as far as social distancing. Now, if you're a group coming from one area, we could seat you together up to a maximum of 6 persons at one table. More than that, then we will have to distance you. There are hand sanitizer at all of the entrances, so you'll be sanitizing your hands once you enter the building, and you will have to wear your mask in all the public areas. Of course, coming to the Bahamas, you would have to have a RT-PCR swab negative COVID test results to get on the flight. And depending on which airline you're flying, because it was just recently announced that if you're coming via American airline, they will also test you at the airport that you're departing from just before heading to the Bahamas. As of November 1st, there will be another testing upon arrival in Nassau, and that test will be the rapid tests that they do. For now, for San Salvador, it will just be the vacation in place, so you won't have to do a follow-up test while you're on vacation. But we've done everything to sanitize and frequently re-sanitize in terms of cleaning. Once you're in the public area, every day you get maid service. There will be no buffets right now, so all the meals will be served. I know we did have a group in July, and what we did was put a barrier. Even though we put the food out, there was a barrier where you can select in terms of what items you want from the buffet, but then we'll take it up and then bring it to your table for you. So we find ways and means to give you some leeway in terms of normalcy, but of course, ensuring that there is the protection for you to be safe and comfortable.
Thank you. Yeah. That shares a lot. It is very exciting. We're finally seeing some destinations opening, and as Michelle said, American Airlines is working very closely with the Bahamas right now on establishing some of their own testing procedures for passengers to be able to make it easier to get to the Bahamas. If you wanted to go right now, you could with PCR test 5 days in advance. But I know for some people that's still a difficulty to get. So this is kind of big news, being able to do this with American Airlines through Miami. So that's exciting.
So Cheryl, as of November 1st, actually will be within 7 days of arrival.
Okay, all right. That's great. That's going to help a lot. And I don't have any doubt that you will, you and your staff will be adjusting things as needed and working within the protocols, keeping everybody safe, but also keeping that family and intimate atmosphere and service that you do. I've worked very closely with Michelle through a lot of, we've worked through some storms, some airline schedule changes, crazy stuff like that. And Michelle is on it, and the staff is always there to just make it, it's more like a family feel, something small and intimate and special. So I don't have any doubt that they're going to be in fantastic hands and still have an excellent experience. Even during all these different hurdles and loopholes that everybody has to go through right now. So,
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
You're welcome.